Hey, what's going on, everyone? Okay, here we go. This is going to be epic. We got the Burr Queen and we got the landlord advocate that's out there with a bat protecting us all. So I love this. We got the muscle and we got the queen. I love it. So we got Sarah Larbi here, and Sarah is just kicking ass. Sarah is someone that I followed for quite some time and really helped me really digest a lot of that Burr information that was out there that was put out by Matt McKeever and then seeing it in action. So thank you, Sarah, for that and where I'm in my journey. And Kayla, I mean, my first experience with you is actually seeing your interview on CBC with Gail Ryder. And thank you, because that's not easy, going out there. And I'm sure, there's a lot of haters out there, and we'll talk about that with respect to, that line, that Berlin Wall between being a landlord versus being a tenant. So welcome to the 72 Real Estate Investor Show. Let's first start. So Kayla, let's talk a little bit about yourself.
So I'm an investor. I've been an investor for 17 years. I started when I was 18 years old. I currently have 4 children, one that is 5 months old. So life can be really, really busy. But in the meantime, we manage our Facebook group for landlords, property managers, real estate agents, and paralegals. We talk about the issues with the Residential and Tenancy Act, the Landlord and Tenant Board, but most importantly, we like to discuss the solutions that we can put together for the elected officials to take into consideration to fix the housing crisis. Now it's housing chaos. So we have a lot of moving parts to what we're creating to get our advocacy level efforts a little bit stronger, and we're looking forward to bringing that to the listeners today to let them know what we're up to.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right, so I started investing in 2013 and started originally with buy and hold as a landlord, got into the Burr strategy because it allowed me to recycle my money a lot faster. 7-8 years later, I have 12 doors, about to close on another mixed use building. And I'm also the co-founder of the Right Club. So we have events and a community for investors and those that want to get into real estate investing across Canada now. Also the host of 2 podcasts that are Canadian real estate specific.
You're just too shy. You're also apparently an amazing coach.
Thank you.
You also started your coaching program, haven't you?
I did. I started a few. There's some online ones, and then there's some in-person ones. There's the group coaching where there's 10 to 12 students, and it's over 3 months. Different things to help as much as possible to get people, fast forwarding into being investors and doing it without all the mistakes that I made in the beginning.
Good for you. Well, thank you for that. That's exciting. So let's just get right to this, and we know what's happening outside our windows right now with this whole COVID crisis. And I'm not here, no one has a crystal ball of what's going to happen. But if my premonition is correct, we're fucked with respect to all the stuff coming out with respect to really everybody's been given permission to be entitled now. You don't have to pay for this. You don't have to pay for your rent. You don't have to pay your credit card thing. You can push everything back, And the thing that scares the shit out of me is that this is people's perceived notion of normal after the fact. There's going to be no penalty for deferring any of these things. And as landlords ourselves, we're really stuck because there's many landlords right now that bought that investment property just because they needed that side gig or what have you. Now they've lost their jobs. And now they have tenants that are, fuck, it pisses me off when you see what's happening in Toronto where there's like a rent strike.
Oh, it's not just Toronto.
I was going to say it's Hamilton, it's Guelph, it's really, it's actually
Ottawa.
Not even just Ontario. If you look at Canada, there's a lot of this stuff going on. Ontario, we live in Ontario, we see it. It's everywhere, but it's bigger than we think. And I don't even think it's only in this country either.
Sure. I agree. No, for sure. And it's and the thing, it just goes back, history repeats itself, right? When you have capitalism and so forth, you always have the ones on one side that feel like they're the have-nots, and that's their way of fighting back. And they're the ones that wear the masks. I guess everybody's wearing masks these days, but you got on that one side, and they're the ones everybody has to hose down with water hoses and that kind of stuff. They're the anarchists. And at the end of the day, a lot of these same people that we provide housing and shelter for their families. They don't realize that, hey, we're busting our asses off to keep things moving. We're human beings. Kayla, you got 4 children. You know, you got to feed them. You got to keep shelter and that kind of stuff. We're fighting the same exact battles they are on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
And the only difference is that we're grinders, and we got to figure it out. We're not going to put our hand out and expect someone to come to us. Like right now, has the government said landlords, like, thank you. Like, we have a housing crisis before this.
that would, like, I'd fall off my chair if that's what actually happened.
Absolutely.
I'd be like, this is not Airbnb. Airbnb, on the other hand, I will say they've done a great job.
Yeah, they've done a fantastic job, right? I mean, so you look on one side, it's like, you know, you don't have to worry about paying, but the landlords for us, what have we done before COVID-19? Well, there's a housing crunch in this country, and, you know, we look at affordability and so forth. So there's no thanks there saying, hey, thank you for taking part of your home and letting other people rent it. Now during COVID-19, it's like, hey, you don't have to pay your rent now, but landlords, sorry, there's nothing we can do for you right now. It's like the ultimate middle finger. Sorry, go ahead, Kayla.
No, it's you got it. It is the middle finger. You know, they had a housing crisis prior to this pandemic, and they knew that there was problems, and now they just took they took crisis and put it into a chaos. And it all started with the first thing that happened with our elected officials and how they came right up to the news and said, don't worry about paying rent. No one's going to get evicted. Nice green slideshow, food trumps rent. And now when tenants are having problems or with their landlord, period, they just say, hey, the Ford government said I didn't have to pay rent. And he's trying to backtrack, and he said, if you have money, you know, pay your rent. It's the right thing to do. But if it's about putting food on the table, and then put food on the table. They have the police network putting it out on social media that, hey, landlords, you know, make sure that you're washing down your railings, washing down the elevators, washing down. I'm like, yeah, we're an essential service, and we're putting ourselves out there. We're still people are still looking for rental units. It's crazy. And here the government is wanting to focus on getting bailouts for the airlines or getting bailed out for the oil. Meanwhile, you have to be protecting your housing supply because it was already not protected before, and that's why they were losing more investors into this industry and instead of gaining them. So they have to come up with something quick, because I think they might be trying to look at how this is playing out, because April 1st, everyone thought it was doomsday. And you're looking at 75 to 85% of the tenants actually paid their rent. And you know what? You keep those in the back of your brain, because when this is all over, you're bringing them a nice little package to be like, thank you for actually being a good person and watching your budget and knowing what it's like to be a landlord. But then you're going to see that rate drop, and that's going to be because of how long this is actually going to be happening. And what's scary, knowing that this could happen until there's a vaccine, like, no, like, we can't, we need to have more support and more you need a rent subsidy in order to be able to keep these investors into the industry right now.
100%. Sarah, what's been your experience so far? I mean, what has been the compliance with your tenants? Have you been okay? Like,
yeah,
have they been paying their rent? Or
for me, I wasn't worried about April. I think the only control we have is screening our tenants. So I've always, you know, not necessarily the first couple, but over time you develop systems and processes and procedures. And I have a very, very strict process now. And so for April, I wasn't worried. One truly couldn't afford everything. So it was like $200 short. I was like, maybe not even 200, but I trust that she's going to pay. I'm more worried about, okay, these people that do want to pay, but maybe they won't be able to fully pay in May and then June. And how long does this last? And the jobs that they currently don't have, even when we are able to go back, is it actually still going to be there? Their jobs? Probably not all of them. Definitely not all of them. I think like the numbers I last saw was 400,000 of those jobs already are lost for good. And that was like last week. So it's probably even worse now. The longer this goes, the worse it's going to get. So they may or may not have jobs. And I think there's two sets of tenants, and we have to look at those that cannot pay because they just can't, but they want to. They're normally good. You want to work with them. And then there's those ones that are like, you know what? This is what our government is saying, and it's a good time to screw over my landlord. I didn't like them anyways. I'm just going to say, screw you, rent strike. And so I think it's important to differentiate those two. One I will work with, one I will not work with. And it's just unfortunate because at this point, like, landlords don't have a whole lot of help. You know, there's mortgage deferral. It's not, first of all, okay for everybody to take it. Because as an investor, you have to declare financial hardship. You're probably not going to qualify. And then you're going to be paying interest on interest, and potentially screw yourself over from being able to acquire more, refinance them if you need to. Anyways, whole lot of problems. It's not that easy to take. And what else is there, right? So like, even if, let's just say I'm a landlord, this is not my case, but I have no more mortgages and I'm relying on my income. So who cares? There's still maintenance, there's still taxes, there's still insurance, there's still bills to be paid. It's not just about the mortgage. And it's about, okay, why should we as landlords provide free housing because somebody else can't pay? Most small landlords have jobs, and most small landlords, just like their tenants, likely lost their jobs or a portion of it, or a portion of their income. We're not all sitting here on piles and piles of money. And if we were, it's because we busted our asses off to get to where we are today. I first started with the cheapest house I can afford. I cashed out all my vacation to be able to afford it. And I hustled. You know, it's not like we get these silver spoons and just everything handed to us. Like, we work for where we are today. Why should it just be, oh, you know what, landlords are little rich people, like they can handle it, we're just going to screw them over? Why? Like, because we live in a country where, like, if you do more and you want to succeed and you bust your ass, you should be able to be compensated for that accordingly, which to up to now, I think we were doing fine. But all of a sudden, this COVID things happen, and you see all these divisions, all the finger pointing, and then the government not even thanking us for what we've been doing this whole time. Yet there's a shortage housing issue. They expect us to fix it by what? Saying, oh, you don't have to worry about your rent. Don't worry, I've got it. Yeah, we're all in the same boat, people.
Sarah, what pisses me off the most is that you have the elected officials having programs stating that the $2,000 a month is going to be for people to pay rent and groceries. And they know of this growing movement to not pay their rent. And this money is still being issued directly to the people themselves to withhold it from their landlord.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is that they're going to take this money, they're going to go and get their fast food, they're going to go and get whatever they need to do throughout this pandemic to get them through it, probably their alcohol, because I know I need some, and it's going to be wasted. And now after this pandemic, when landlord and tenant board opens up and maybe you're getting your case heard, now what's going to happen is that you're going to have to use, the tenants are going to be using other type of government agencies to bail them out of, to not get them evicted and tap into that extra government funds when the government funds were already given. So it's wasted taxpayers' dollars, and either as landlord or taxpayers, everyone should be pissed at the fact of this growing rent strike.
And then
sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
I was going to say, and then what's going to happen? So all of these landlords and investors are going to have to sell, or they're going to potentially lose their property. Like, there's a lot of consequences. I don't think they're thinking this through. And tenants are going to end up on the street anyways. Like, I was talking to a realtor yesterday, and his client has to sell because all of a sudden the tenant does not want to pay anymore. And he cannot carry because he got let go. So he cannot carry his house plus the rental unit. He has to sell, but the tenant is even refusing to let people through to see the property. So, like, what's going to happen to those people? They're going to have to either sell at a loss, they're going to have to do cash for keys, again, more money to these tenants because they're abusing the system because they know how to do it. And then what's going to happen? Like, you know, like, this is disgusting that they can do this. There was already such a big delay of people abusing the system, months and months. Like, Kayla had, a tenant, and she did all the paperwork correctly, by the way. It's easy to screw up, you know, filling out an N4 and filing all of that stuff. But it took 7 months for somebody to play the system. And then that person's probably going to go somewhere else and do it again.
That wasn't even the tenant applying for an appeal 7 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's case scenario. That was 7 months. So now imagine after all of this, the whole backlog from already 50,000 plus cases already in the queue, plus everything else. If there's a tenant that chooses to fuck around and screw over their landlord, that landlord is going to be stuck for 18 plus months until they get out, unless you cash for keys.
For sure. Well, it's actually even beyond that, right? Like, I mean, it's not just 18 months, it's 7 years, because if that person has to go bankrupt,
Yeah.
They're done, right?
Yeah.
Because of that, right? So, and I think there's a bigger, there's a bigger issue here, and I think now we're seeing a real microcosms of a real macro issue, which is, the way the systems are set up. I mean, and it's like with anything, one side, just got this pendulum shifting back and forth, and what it is, it's about getting votes. So I think we can all understand it's all about votes, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I want to be very clear to the listeners, is that what we're talking about here is not all tenants. That is the key thing. We know we know a lot of you are busting your ass, and to make sure you guys can make your payments and that kind of stuff. You're not the irresponsible ones. Ones we're talking about are the professional tenants or the entitled fucks that just want to take advantage of a system that is broken. And this is their now permission to say, hey, see, now we can continue doing this. So I want to make sure I'm clear with that.
Yeah. And that's why in the beginning, when I said there's two sets, right? There's those that cannot but want to and will work with your landlord, and like you'll work with those. And then there's the ones that want to abuse the system because they can. So that is, I'm glad that you are mentioning that again, because it's completely different. Not everybody fits in that same boat as well.
Absolutely. And I think it also goes for as well as, and this also part of this lies on the responsibility of the investor and landlord. And where I'm going with this is that it's very critical that when you get in this game, I love being an investor. I love real estate investing. This is simply a blip in the road. And the only reason it's a blip in the road and not falling off a cliff is because I prepared as much as I could, which was making sure I had the reserves, making sure I had other avenues, not making sure I'm not living above my means, and then buying an investment property that when something like this happens, I'm going to fall off a cliff. I mean, do you guys agree with that?
Mm-hmm. It is. Like we when we buy our properties, you scrape and we sacrifice, and that's why, because you're sacrifice, you have to make sure that you have money for renovations, you got time for when people don't pay. But this is coming down to that we're going to come underneath hard times now and after this. And they don't even know how this country is going to be able to come back and open for business. So they have to take in consideration through this pandemic, what you understand is that our necessities of life, and that you need your health care, you need your food, you need your utilities, and you need your shelter. So why they're not giving any type of relief to the landlord in order to pass that relief to the tenant is just because we don't have that union to fight. We have no way of protesting. There's no way for us to say, well, we're going to keep our places empty, even though landlords are right now. And there's a way for us to say that we can't even do a lockout because now it's break in and enter. But before, that would be in a landlord and tenant board situation, and that's when it's illegal entry. So they always get you one way or another, and they're not respecting their investors. And that's why after this, our investors may be looking at other provinces to invest. Just like BC, they decided to do a rent subsidy of $500 to help out because they understand that you need to protect your housing stock.
That's so true. Absolutely. And it's just mind-boggling. Like, for example, in my situation, I just love my tenants. I have very good tenants. They've just been awesome. And they've communicated with me along the way. Okay, so I was proactive. The one tenant that I'm not surprised that is using this and milking it was the one tenant that's been late in the past before. And out of my tenant pool, this is probably the most, I think their household income is like $150,000, accountants. And their thing was, oh, because of COVID-19, we're having a hard time making ends meet. It's like, fuck off. Come on. Like, I actually have pity on them, because it's like, this is how they're going to live their life forever as victims, right? But the other ones that are either on social assistance or just, working cash jobs or whatever, they called me and said, hey, we can't do this, but can we split the payments and pay over 3 or 4 weeks, every little bit? That's all I care. It's just communication.
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of us are reasonable. Like, you're going to have the bad apple on either sides, but most of us are reasonable. And as long as the, communication is there and then there's a plan, we're open to working with them. Just like ideally they're open to working with us.
Sure.
But you gotta keep yourself on a diary. You gotta give yourself a paper, pen, write down every single interaction with this tenant to show that you've tried to work with them, so that when you do eventually get to the landlord and tenant board and you can eventually get that judgment, it's about to affect the credit. Now, if you don't have the tenant goes, oh, I already got shitty credit anyways, I don't care, it's going to hit my credit. At least you're putting it on the credit, so as other landlords are now checking the tenant's credit for the future, that it's going to come back and bite them in the ass regardless. And that's what we needed to, that's what we've been advocating for so long, is that we need a database of the people who are abusing the type of system that's out there. But sadly, because of these privacy laws, you can't. But with Bill 184, they actually want to keep a database at the landlord and tenant board of which landlords are issuing N12 or N13 notices for rent evictions or for personal use. And they want to keep a database on which landlords are abusing that form, but not have a database of tenants who are abusing the N4 form. So you can see that, we've got to change the way that people are seeing the fact of landlord. And some people want to be called housing providers. Some people are like landlord, you're the lord of the land. But if you look at the history of where landlord came from, is that they were the protector of the land and the protector of the people. So this is about working with private investors. And I think it's smart from our elected official standpoint to be partnering with private investors rather than working against us. So we have to work our private units into our social units together, and to understand the need of each community and have the backing of our elected officials and the taxpayer funds, so that we're not paying more through emergency type of shelter funds and or agencies that we're paying an arm and a leg for to keep running, just to give out money that is just going into an unsustainable system.
This is an issue that's been there for a while. Like, you've been fighting this for, I don't know, 10 plus years, and it's still going to be an issue that's going to be here in 10 years. I think it's just right now, people are panicking, people are worried, and like health comes first and family comes first. And like, we're not saying that like, this is what you guys need to focus on. Of course, this virus is a horrible thing, and we're all in this. But aside from that, I think people just now may have more fire under their asses to say, this is not the way that we should be treated as landlords. This is not the way that the government should be, viewing what we do or what we can do or what we cannot do. And I think people are now saying, like, what can we do to change? Kayla, you've been doing this for 10 years. Like, unfortunately, it takes something like this for people to wake up and say, oh crap, we probably should find a way to be stronger together. And start acting. And hopefully even after this is all done, well, we should still be doing this, because it's only going to stay, if we don't do anything, it's going to be the same problem over and over. And I fear that it's going to get worse over time.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Like we have a council. Sarah's a part of our council. We have about 10 people so far in the council that is coming together to really to really do the work for the government, to be like, this is your problem, here's the solution, this is how you implement a solution to benefit landlords, tenants, and taxpayers. And we're working on that project together. But in order to now get to the table, we have to form ourselves as a lobby group, which is going to need more subcommittees. It's going to need some funding that's going to have to come from our members that are watching, or any type of podcast, so that we can pool our efforts. Sarah and I were just on a meeting on Friday with a lawyer, because we're like, yo, like, can we get a lawyer on this? And he's like, okay, let me think, I'll get back to you on Monday or Tuesday. I want to see what I can do here, because some of the times it's like, when it's law and it's into legislation, it's hard for us to really approach things the way we want to. Besides, is this are you discriminating against us because we're landlords? Because not all landlords are rich and not all tenants are poor. But for whatever reason, these people want to put us to take care of another person. But in reality, it's the government's job to provide the housing. We can manage it, we can support it, we can buy it, but they have to put the money into the tenants' hands so that the tenants can give it to the landlords to keep that roof over their head. It's not the landlord's job.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So now, I mean, like that we've gone through our I would say negative side, but educational side, right? Which is really key. And like, I know, and is this with the stuff that's going on, I think I could tell you right now, it doesn't stop me from buying more properties, being a landlord, being an investor, and that kind of stuff. And I would hope it's the same for you guys. You guys are still bearing down and doing this, but now you guys, we have to be careful. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. I think investing in real estate is still by far the best thing to do. Being a landlord, you just got to be a little bit more careful. There's more landmines. You got to really, really screen to get the right tenants in place. And stay active with Kayla's group, and just fighting for what makes sense for everybody. But if it wasn't for real estate investing, I wouldn't be where I am today. I think it's the best way to still become wealthy. I think there's going to be tons of opportunity coming out of this down trend or this down cycle, just like there's opportunity in every single cycle. It's just about adapting. It's about shifting. Mindset is still really important. It's important to know what is still happening around us. Like, you don't want to be like so like focused on like everything is perfect, everything is great, I'm just going to sit here and eat my ice cream in social isolation. Like, there's stuff going on that we need to be aware of, and there's things that we're going to like, there's things that are not going to be good, like the stuff that's going on with the landlord tenant stuff, but overall real estate is awesome, and it is going to continue being awesome, and it's going to be the easiest way to wealth and the easiest way to be able to retire from your 9-to-5. If anything, people that are laid off or maybe their company, had some furloughs or whatnot, this is a great time to do some research about how you can create income for yourself and other avenues, so you don't rely on just your job or one source of income. I think that's really important. That should be a good wake-up call for people to say, crap, like I need more than one source of income. And it might be real estate and something else. It might be starting your own business. Like, it could be so many things, but I don't want to rely. First, I do not want to rely on the governments. But B, I do not want to rely on my job, because you never know. Exactly a situation like this, a lot of people have lost their only source of income, and now what?
Absolutely. And the thing is, as well, is I love that. I love that, because this whole time you could either be watching Tiger King or King Tyler, I don't know what it is on Netflix, or you could spend all this time sharpening your axe, and working on your craft, right? So now, I think we're running out of time here. I think based on this call, my timer's coming up. So what can we do about this? Like, that's really the message, is what can new people coming into real estate investing, what can current investors do, and so forth? Kayla?
Well, from my part, it would be that you need to build your network. You need to build your network of people who are into the industry. They've been there, they've done that. They can teach you, they can support you, and that's what Ontario Landlords Watch was created, to help one another through the day-to-day operations, and also be a news outlet, so that when things are happening in this industry, that you know what's happening, so you're aware of it sooner rather than later. Because for us to starting out advocacy, it was about water billing, and I had to call landlords on Kijiji and say, hey, this is what's happening, get down to City Hall, we have to fight it. And now it's so much easier just to put a post in our group, put it on a YouTube channel, put it in our newsletter, to be like, guys, like, this is what's happening, we need your support, we need you to fight, and this is how you do it. And now we're teaching other people on how to do what I do, and now we have a big team behind us in order to make sure that we get to stand up for the industry that is still a really good way of protecting, but we do need our housing, and they have to take us as a necessity and respect us as a business.
Agreed. So if people, we want to make sure people join, whether you're looking for more volunteers on your council, whether you're looking for people to sign into the groups and so forth, how can they do that?
Well, if you go onto Ontario Landlords Watch members group and say that you've heard of us on your podcast, we can let them in a little bit quicker. We have had an influx of people trying to get in, or you can add me as a friend on Kayla Andrade on Facebook as well, and send me a message so I can let you in a little bit quicker. But again, it is still social media. We do our best to screen our tenants screen tenants out of the group. We just wanted to have it landlord, but it's best just to try to connect with us. And you can also email me at olwlandlords@gmail.com.
Perfect. Excellent. And Sarah?
Yeah, I think what I would just say is, as a landlord, like, Kayla, I want to thank you, because I know that you've been doing this for so long, and like, part of me has heard your message years ago, and I'm like, and I don't know why. I'm like, why didn't I wake up sooner, right, to this? Because we would probably, you can't fight this alone. So, but thank you for like not giving up the towel and like fighting for us. And I think we all should be thanking you, because that's time. And by the way, Kayla does this for free.
Absolutely.
Like, she doesn't get paid for this, and she fights, for things that we all collectively will get as a reward, or I don't want to say fairness, because I hate that word, but why we do this is to help and create nice homes for great tenants, And of course, you know, there's going to be pros and cons to every single business. And Kayla is really fighting for what makes sense for us not to get crushed once we do unfortunately have a tenant that's not able to, you know, to pay or does not want to pay. So first of all, thank you. I think everybody listening to this should go to Ontario Landlords Watch and be part of it, because there's going to be some announcements coming as well very, very soon. So I think that's really important to stay on top of this. And that, you know, my final thing I would just say is educate yourself, join networking groups, learn about investing in general, pick a strategy. There's going to be opportunities, go ahead and take action. And then also learn about all of the downsides of what's happening so that you're realistic, right? There's ups and downs to every business, and learn them both.
Thank you, Sarah. So I'm sure this is going to end very soon here. So Kayla, on behalf of all my fellow investors, landlords, thank you. This is thank you, thank you, because you're really throwing yourself out there. I really appreciate that. Individuals like yourself. I know Gail Ryder did it, and she had some bad threats. I see Mike Rosehart, personal friend of mine, and the stuff that the hatred that he's getting from anarchists and so forth. That's the road we live in, unfortunately. But thank you so much, and I can't wait to sign up myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time, guys. Take care.
Thanks.